Good evening, folks. This is John Pettipas recording at 5 minutes to 8 in the evening on evening for Wednesday night, the 7th day of April, 2021. And this evening I want to start off by giving a special shout out to Brent Wadden. Brent Wadden comes from the wonderful province of Newfoundland and Labrador. He's in Avalon Peninsula, I believe. And he's an energetic young fellow, and he just celebrated on Easter Monday, the 5th day of April, his birthday. So, very energetic young man. I want to applaud you and wish you, kind sir, well pleased to wish you a happy birthday and many, many more. All the best, my son. Thank you. Now, this point number one, Brent Wadden, Esquire's happy birthday shout out. Great fellow. This evening, we have a wonderful gentleman from Cape Breton, Mr. Einar McKeegan. He went to heaven on Good Friday, the 2nd day of April. When people die on Good Friday, on Sunday, I think there's General Stonewall Jackson, General and President Andrew Jackson. One or both those gentlemen died on a Sunday. R.P. Cameron died in Holy Week. I believe it was Good Friday. Mr. Stanley Fergier and Har Bushy died, I believe, Good Friday. There's something special about people that die on, I think God is sending a message out that how good and how fine these people are. So, tribute this evening to Mr. Einar McKeegan. What a wonderful gentleman. Einar McKeegan was born in MACKEIGAN, I understand. And he was involved in so many things. He was a stalwart of the community, his church, the MACKEIGAN Volunteer Fire Department, the MACKEIGAN Marina Commission. He went up to Halifax. They said he went up to mainland, as they say. He went up to mainland to Halifax. He worked at Lawton's drugstore in his early years. As a pharmacist, graduated from the pharmacist school. He became he got one time as a pharmacist, he got this beautiful big cup. I don't have something I can illustrate, but it's about the size of this bottle, and you get your name on it. Okay, the lovely willows in it. You get your name on it, and it's called a Hygiena Cup, and that's a special award given to pharmacists that have given extraordinary devotion to not only to the pharmacy, the profession of being a pharmacist, but their community. In fact, he was known for extraordinary service. He'd bring diabetic supplies. I know somebody in Port Hastings, a wonderful lady who's in heaven too, probably one of the first ones to greet him in heaven, when Jean had dialysis and she went to she needed special stuff, and Mr. McKeegan would bring her right to the house sometime, and the family was liberal voting, very decent, wonderful people, and son said to me one day, Dad said, it's talk that Mr. McKeegan can run for the Conservative Party if they were so fortunate to have somebody of his stature to run. Any party be honoured to have Mr. Einar McKeegan. But anyway, comment came back, little fellow at work. Paul said, Dad said, if Mr. McKeegan runs for Tories, even though we're Liberals, we're going to have to vote for Mr. McKeegan. Didn't say they're voting PC or Tory. They were going to vote for Mr. McKeegan. We think this evening of his lovely wife Shirley, and she's a wonderful lady. When Mr. McKeegan was up in Halifax, up to mainland, as to say, Shirley was managing, administering what is now the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, was then Victoria General Hospital, the pharmacy department. And the fine children and the grandkids. There's one little guy, really exceptional little fella. He loves Terry Fox. So we both think the world of Terry Fox. Terry Fox, loving great-grandson, and just a fantastic, bright little guy. I was at the house a few years ago, and I think the guy was about 8 years old now. He'd be, 10 and a half, whatever, maybe 11, but real, just bright little kid. What would you expect looking at the parents and the grandparents, actually great-grandparents, Ian, Mr. McKeegan, Ian, and Shirley. A remarkable lady in her own right as well. In fact, speaking of Terry Fox, I have here, this here is, I'll just move my camera for a second. Let's see if we can see this okay. See, Terry Fox, be like Terry Fox, persistent. Okay, well, Mr. McKeegan, tell you a quick little story. Terry Fox, when he was doing his Merit and Hope for Cancer Research, he had a stump. And this prestigious wasn't as good as what we have now. And better than Civil War, World War I or World War II, but you're hopping along and he was putting pressure on it. And he was problem with getting irritated. And he went in to get some bandages at Mr. McKeegan's pharmacy in Waikagama. And he looked up in the wall and there was some lovely banners up there. This is one, Cape Breton Island. See, can you see it all, folks? For you, Cape Breton Island. Cape Breton Island for you to see. Okay, Cape Breton Island for you to see. And I think this is blocking in a second. Yes. Here, can you see better now? Cape Breton Island for you to see. So beautiful and how true. Anyway, he wanted to buy them, and Mr. McKeegan says, no, son. What you're doing, we appreciate it. And there was another gentleman there that day, was a very fine gentleman as well, of McGinnis Trucking. And Miles was in there, and he told me one day, I had the pleasure of meeting that fine young man. Okay, that would have been back in late April, very early May of 1980, which is next Sunday the 12th is going to be Terry Fox's 41st anniversary. In fact, so he actually met Terry Fox. He had in his diary how kind the people were to him in Waikagama. And at the 25th anniversary of Terry Fox, the great people of Waikagama just got off the phone, lady whose maiden name, Morrison lady, whose maiden name was Cameron. There's a Cameron Hall on Main Street, Waikagama. And they had a tea, they'd have oat cakes and delicacy squares and nice sandwiches and all, and milk and what have you. So anyway, they take, and Terry Fox's mother, they had a tea on the 25th. That would have been 16 years ago, because Betty Fox is in heaven now too. That's somebody else that would have been greeting Mr. McKeegan. Terry himself, his wonderful mother, and Betty, and Force in her own right, and Rowley. So they're fine people. They take in really fine people. Now back to Mr. McKeegan. I was at their house one day visiting, and they take, and just excuse me, folks, let me move this camera in order here. Get back to position. And I was at the house, and Mr. McKeegan, very not a preachy guy, but extremely intelligent, bright guy. And we're talking about the early settlers. And the gentleman I was speaking to this evening from made this observation that we're so fortunate to have had our ancestors. And Mr. McKeegan made the comment that the early settlers, look at Waikagama, you see the Waikagama Mountains, you go down to Route 105, and beyond over at Roseburn, you see the Sky Mountain. So the Waikagama Mountain, Sky Mountain. And they were the first Scottish settlers come over. So new land, new people, wildlife. It was different till Scotland. And they cleared these patches of land. They worked very hard, and they planted their corn, or their wheat, a little bit of wheat, or potatoes, or whatever, peas, carrots, turnip. The Scotch love turnip. They planted little plots of stuff. And Mr. McKeegan said, really, they were doing for the next generation, because their life expectancy over here was relatively short at those days. You're talking the early 1800s. The life expectancy of the first settlers was a relatively short duration on planet Earth. And he said, he sat down, and he said, he made the comment, and I never forgot that. Mr. McKeegan said, things must have been really tough in Scotland for them to come over here, because some of the boats didn't make, we hear about the ones made it across, Beatons and McLeans and Morrisons and you can name it, McDonald's, but there's ones that didn't make it. Life had to be really tough in Scotland for them to leave there. And I'm going to bring this in. I'm not going to bring dirty words in, but I'm going to mention this. There's a wonderful gentleman, Little Arrows, and obviously you're very fond of coming in to buy cranberries and potatoes. And so he came in, and he leaning on the counter, and he said, me and their wife, we went over to Scotland. Me and Anna went over to Scotland. And we're up there on the Hebrides, or Iona, where the Scotch, their family came from. They take the Mattisons. And he said, what was it like over there? I said, He said, ugh, rough as can be, rocky. I said, you can only, rockies can be, rocks everywhere. I said, you can only raise sheep and goats, I suppose. He said, you couldn't even do that. He said, no, darn wonder. I used that four-letter word, but it wasn't darn. I can't use it in family television, the family video, but anyway, no darn wonder they left there to come over here. So as Mr. McKeegan pointed out that winter afternoon, and at their home in Waikagama on Norman MacLeod Road, he made a comment, things had to be really tough for them to come over here and do what they did. And they were doing it for the next generation, But they persisted, just like Mr. McKeegan and Mrs. McKeegan went up to Halifax. They came back. There was a couple that had the Gillis Market, and they died, I believe, in an accident. In fact, I know they died in an accident. Him and Dewitt Macaulay bought the village grocery store. And Dewitt ran the grocery store, and Mr. McKeegan started, and that was the genesis of McKeegan's Pharmacy. It's a lovely new pharmacy in Waikagama on the highway now, new building, standalone building. And after many years of persistent hard work, and there was one in Port Hawkesbury at one point. So a remarkable man, a fantastic man for the community. And we look here at the kindness of the man. God, he was good. He a very considerate, kind man. He would have made a wonderful family doctor. Something like A. Monroe. A. Monroe, very kind, decent guy, make a family doctor. Okay, they take, and there's something about the people down the road with Waikagama. Remember at Mr. Monroe's funeral, there was McDonald's and Mattisons and Morrisons and McKeegans. The fire department had honor guard out. So, Mr. Ian McKeegan, and I deliberately put up the Cape Breton flag. You see the colors of the Cape Breton flag again? The blue, the green, the yellow, and the grey. That's a genuine Cape Breton flag. I can sincerely say that Ian McKeegan, Mr. McKeegan and me, he represented the very best of Cape Breton and humanity. I'm going to repeat that. Mr. Ian McKeegan represented the very best of Cape Breton Island and humanity. And we know that God would have, last Friday, Good Friday, would have welcomed him in heaven with the words, well done, faithful and good servant. And I can speak from personal experience. It's been my pleasure to know a fine gentleman in the being of Ian McKeegan. Ian as the folks kindly called him. I don't know what more I can say. He's a fantastic guy, a special tribute to a wonderful gentleman, and we pray for him up in heaven now, and we thank God for sending such a wonderful gentleman. With that, I got to go. I'm going to close up tonight. I'm going to say, God bless Mr. McKeegan, and God bless each and every one of you wonderful people. The next time, all the best. And say a prayer for Mr. McKeegan. Thank you very much. It's John Pettipas. It's about 8.5 minutes past 8 o'clock in the evening now, on the evening of Wednesday night, the 7th day of April 2021. And share the video. Share it to spread it around the internet, the computer machine, internet, computer machines, social media. Share this video as a tribute to Mr. McKeegan, and please hit that subscribe button. We're making remarkable progress this last while, due to much help in many dedicated folks that to increase the number of viewers. But spread this video. It's a tribute to Mr. Ian McKeegan. It's the whole purpose of it. And thank you very much. Good night, and say a special prayer for Mr. McKeegan and his wonderful wife and family. Thank you. Bye for now.